So what have you seen, like, as you have come up with those and worked through those? Like, how have they affected the decisions that you make, or maybe that you don't make?
Yeah, so I use an app on my phone. It's called Notion. I don't know if you can see this here, but picture my kids, and I have the 6 core values. And for a while there, I was looking at them every day, and I was reading through them until I've kind of memorized them. At this point, I've pretty much memorized them. If I say it on the spot, I might mess it up a little bit, but pretty much memorize them. And just in the morning, if I'm doing a time of meditation or prayer, I'll just kind of go through those at that same time. And that's what's helpful for me. I also use Notion at the end of the day. I do a little bit of again, I'm obviously, you can tell I'm a little bit of a kind of like systematic person in my nature, but at the end of the day, I'll also use Notion. I'll kind of do like an end of day, and there's a couple things I check through on my list, like, hey, 3 things I'm grateful for. A couple, it just takes like 3 to 5 minutes. Did I go through these? Did I look at this? Did I think on this? Was I, nice to my wife today? Was I, good leader to my kids today? And I definitely don't hit it every day by any means. Most days I probably don't hit it, right? But that just helps me to kind of do like a little end of day check.
No, I think that's phenomenal. And, and again, I know that some folks have talked about this journaling, but just the fact that you're taking mental space and time to be contemplative and to reflect, right? We live in a culture where you're bombarded, with stimulation. And this is something we used to do with our students at our student home when we were house parents. A lot of them back then, before there were phones, they had these things called, what were they had music on? iPods?
Yeah, iPods.
Yeah, they had
MP3
iPods.
players.
Yeah, and so they would want to take those on their way to school to listen to them on their walk. And we actually said, you know what? Because during the daytime or in the evenings, you're bombarded with TV or when you're at school. So we want you to use that 30-minute walk to be contemplative. I don't want anything blaring, any kind of music blaring in your ears, but I wanted to use this time to, think about yourself, think about your life on the way there, on the way back, similar kind of thing. So, just the fact that you're taking space, right, to be contemplative, I think is super helpful. And I would think that would be a super good practice for listeners as well.
Yeah, and so the question is, has it helped? Has it made a difference, right? And I don't know if I can say that it, definitely has not made me perfect in these areas or been able to hit all these core values the way I want to. But I think forcing myself to reflect on them daily has definitely not hurt in making me just evaluate. Am I trying to improve in these areas? So I definitely would say I've had some small incremental improvement in each of these since starting this. And the goal would be, again, it's definitely a much more of a long-term approach, not so much to perfectly do stuff day to day, but to make sure that in the long-term approach, I'm on the right path, that I'm keeping these 6 activities or something within the realm of these 6 values or core areas of my life at the forefront of what's important to me. So just to reorient, areas of life.
No, I love this. And if you're listening to this, I really hope that you take this and internalize it. Nate, I often talk about different employees that we've hired, and they start off like superstars and super great. And, my hope or, my question to you always is, man, this is awesome. I hope they're consistent, and I hope that they don't go sideways, because, I'm 51 years old, and I've seen different people in my life professionally and personally who are doing great. Then for whatever reason, they make a dumb decision that totally turns their life upside down. Like, I think of the Boston Celtics coach. I don't know if you've heard this story at all, but, just a phenomenal young coach, was a former NBA player, and really was a superstar, on the rise. And he's engaged to Nia Long, who's an actress, beautiful, looks like a kind person. And then somewhere along the way, he made a dumb decision to have an affair, right, with one of his staff. And now it just totally derailed him. So he's suspended. I highly probably believe that he's going to get fired. The whole story hasn't come out yet. But I think of someone like that, again, had he had core values, and again, going back to that verse in Proverbs, and really had those, he would know that when that situation came up, like, those do not align, right, with what I ultimately believe and what I want to be at when I'm 85 years old. And so again, if you're listening, I'm going to come up with some, and maybe I'll share those in a few months. craft whatever you think, like Nate said earlier, where you are not going to have regret when you are 85 years old, and make that part of your life. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, and I'll just say that, we came up with core values for our business, our private label brand, a year or two ago now, and we had six, and we ended up going down to three a couple months ago because it was just a little bit simpler and easy. And so, you know, I have six because I felt like, obviously life up to 85 or 90 is kind of long. So six is still not that many, but the simpler you can make it, the more memorable, not getting too complicated, just focusing on the very most important has worked better in our business, at least, right? So those listening who are like, maybe I'll hold off on the personal thing for now, I'll wait for Andy's or something. But for our business, we have found that helpful because in business, there's definitely those decisions, like you said, that coach who kind of had, an issue here. How many businesses have we heard of that, were going well and then they just made a dumb decision along the way, right? So I think even if it's just you might want to look and ask yourself, hey, here's the things that I am going to do and the things I'm not going to do going forward. And that can be helpful to keep you on the right path for your business.